What is going on, everybody? What is going on, the Catch fam? My name is Jon Dawson, and in today's video, we are hopping into another 2022 fantasy football mock draft. In today's video, we will be conducting an 8-team mock draft at the 8th overall selection through the ESPN platform in a PPR scoring format. Got a couple requests for an updated video at 1.8 for an 8-team league, so we're going to get this done for you guys. Of course, if you all have any mock draft requests, feel free to drop those in the comments down below, whether it is a pre-recorded video like this one or a live subscriber mock draft through Sleeper. Please let me know. Please be sure to join our Discord down below to get updates on when we are mock drafting, as well as our mock draft invites. If you do enjoy today's content, be sure to hit that like button down below and hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. We put out free daily fantasy football content, and at the moment we are running a free subscriber mock draft nearly every single night here on the channel. So without further ado, let's hop into another 2022 fantasy football mock draft. All right, so sitting at 1.8 overall, you're in a very good position to start your draft. You're going to get a high value player to end the first and a high value player to start the second. So what I would do here is look at the best available running backs and receivers and just select one of each. So we'll see how this first round goes. We got JT gone at 1.1, CMC gone at 1.2, Eckler gone at 1.3, and then after those selections of a running back and receiver at 8 and 9, in the third round, I'd like to turn around and land one of those high value tight ends. This is something I've talked about in every single 8-team mock I've done. The positional value at tight end is so crucial to a good season overall, in my opinion. I mean, just you're going to be going up against absolutely stacked teams on a weekly basis in an 8-team format. So securing that positional advantage at tight end is huge. All right, so we see Justin Jefferson gone at 1.4, and unfortunately we've got either a troll or a newbie in here. I've been seeing this happen quite a few times in some of these 8-team mocks, but we got Lamar Jackson gone at 1.5, so we'll see how the rest of this draft turns out. At 1.6, we got Derrick Henry gone at 1.7. We've got Kupp gone. So realistically here, we probably wouldn't land Jamar Chase. He'd probably be gone. So I think to make this, we'll go ahead. We'll just take Jamar Chase off the board. Let's just say that he fell, right? But realistically, we would probably be looking at Devonta Adams, Deebo Samuel, or Stephon Diggs as our wide receiver 1 on this team. Now, looking at our RB1, we could either go with Najee Harris or Dalvin Cook. I like both of these players quite a bit. Let's go ahead and take the more youthful back and Najee Harris off of the board, as much as I like Dalvin Cook, always facing some sort of injury concern. But I really do think Cook is being overlooked at this point in the offseason. I do feel really good about the season that Cook is going to have with a new offensive scheme. But for the sake of today's mock draft, we'll take Najee Harris. I think both are perfectly fine options. So let's take a look here. Yeah, so the team that took Lamar Jackson in the first round is still active. We'll see how they start to fare out in the second and third round. So coming up into the third round, we've got quite a while until we select again. At pick 24, there's no doubt in my mind my top target's going to be Travis Kelce. If he's not available, my top target is Mark Andrews, right? I just want one of those top tier tight ends on this team, get it out of the way and secure that positional advantage. You're going to see a ton of depth at the receiver position throughout that 8-team draft, and there's going to be good enough running backs throughout later rounds. But still, at pick 25, I'd like to go with a second running back receiver, especially if you get a bona fide wide receiver 1 early on who you believe in, whether it's Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Devonta Adams, whoever it may be. As long as you get that top tier guy, you're going to be able to pair all kinds of receivers with that top tier player throughout your draft. So we'll go for Kelce at 24 if he's available. If he's not available, we'll go Andrews. Hopefully one of those guys falls out. I will say that ESPN's rankings has those two top tier tight ends a little bit lower than a lot of rankings. In our 12-team mocks or 10-team mocks, you're really seeing Kelce go in the first, and you're seeing Andrews gone by the mid-second round. So a little bit more inflated in those bigger leagues compared to 8-team league, but still, just through ESPN's rankings, I mean, they're pretty low overall. But nonetheless, in the second round, we got Dalvin Cook, Stephon Diggs, Nick Chubb, Kamara, Deebo, Devonta Adams, and DeAndre Swift off the board. Moving into the third, we see CeeDee Lamb gone at 17 and Joe Mixon gone at 18. So we'll take a look here, looking at running back. I'd like to land a James Conner if he's available. If he's not, we'll go Saquon, get a nice boomer bust player, a nice high ceiling behind Najee Harris, who I think is a little bit more consistent, as we see a little bit of a run at running back here. So we've got Fournette and Jones gone, and then we got Jerry Jeudy, interestingly enough, gone at 21. Travis Kelce is selected at 22. So Mark Andrews becomes our top tier target. Tyreek Hill gone at 23. I like Javonte Williams here as well, but let's go ahead and let's take Andrews off the board. Get that tight end out of the way. I like Javonte here. Don't get me wrong. I like James Conner quite a bit. If you guys follow the channel, you guys know that James Conner is one of my favorite backs to target, but I'm going to go for a little bit of a higher ceiling and go Saquon here. The only issue with this roster, I think it's a really good start to this roster. So far, we've got our 2 starting running backs on the same bye week. Jamar Chase on the same bye week as Mark Andrews. So we're going to be looking to avoid weeks 9 and week 10 in terms of bye weeks moving forward. Okay. Moving along, Saquon Barkley was our first selection in the 4th round. Then we see Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, and Kareem Hunt gone. So at this point in the draft, I'm really just going best available receiver and best available running back. If there's more value at receiver, then we're going to go double receiver and let those running backs sit into the next coming rounds. We're going to keep an eye at the quarterback position. So far, coming on pick 30, we have no quarterbacks off the board. Listen, I talk about positional advantage a lot in 18 mocks, and it's extremely important. But one thing to keep in mind, as much as positional advantage is important at quarterback in 18 leagues, there's going to be plenty of depth at quarterback. I mean, I've come out of plenty of 18 mocks with more than one quarterback that I'm confident in, and I don't really mind. I usually don't go for 2 quarterbacks in redraft formats, but in 18 mocks, I just really like the way some of these teams look. So we'll continue to hold off at the quarterback position and just really stack up at the skill position overall. All right, Jalen Waddle, Javonte Williams, Akers gone, James Conner gone to finish out the 4th round. Moving into the 5th, we see T. Higgins and DJ Moore gone. Going to kind of just let this sit for another pick or 2 before we start to plan ahead at picks 40 and 41. I personally really love having the advantage of being able to plan out 2 selections at once. I love going into a draft either from the 1.1, 1.8, 1.10, 1.12, whatever it may be in your personal league. I just really like that advantage of having those back-to-back selections. I know it's not for everyone, and some people feel like in the later rounds of the draft it hurts you, but I think if you can identify the right players and not be afraid to quote-unquote reach against ADP and just go out and get your guys, you can build some really, really solid rosters. So Michael Pittman gone. Let's take a look at who's available. I like the idea of A.J. Brown here, bringing a nice high ceiling with Jamar Chase to this team. But I've just really been going after Devonta Smith in a lot of mocks. He just continues to be available later on. DeAndre Hopkins off the board here. And A.J. Brown is selected there right before Hopkins went. Ezekiel Elliott off the board. So believe it or not, I really like Mike Williams right now, just bringing a nice high ceiling to this team. Looking at the available running backs, I think we can hold off for a round. I do like ETN. It's possible he falls out to the 56th selection. Other than that, we've got some committee backs kind of moving into that next tier of running back. Breece Hall would be a fun option. Josh Jacobs, not my favorite RB2, but being that we have Harris and Barkley on this team, I think the most important thing to do right now is just go out and get 2 solidified receivers. You could consider, no quarterbacks taken. Josh Allen sitting here is a really interesting selection, but I just don't think that we need to do it. So let's go Mike Williams here. Then I think we just go ahead and we secure another receiver. McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Cooks, Hollywood Brown, DK Metcalf, all of those guys sitting right here I think are really, really good options. You could make an argument that we should go for another running back with 2 running backs on the same bye, but I think we'll be able to identify some really good late round value throughout this draft. Tight end, we don't need to worry about. Like I said, the one move you can make here is just go out and get Josh Allen and call it a day at quarterback, but I'm going to just go ahead and get a little bit more of a consistent receiver overall in PPR formats. I'm going to go Deontay Johnson here, regardless of the quarterback play. I think there's going to be a plethora of targets in line for Deontay this year, and having him as our 3rd receiver on this team, I think is a good spot overall. And oh my goodness, we got another player on week 9. I did not even pay attention. So listen, guys, the one thing with bye weeks, it will hurt in week 9. Let's say if we have Najee Harris, Barkley, and Deontay Johnson on the same bye, and if we have 1 or 2 more bench players on the same bye. But at the end of the day, don't pass up what you think is the best available value just because that player has a correlating bye week with another player. Go out and get who you think are the best available players overall. And I think Johnson will bring a nice, consistent floor and ceiling to this wide receiver core overall. So starting the team off, we got Harris, Barkley, Jamar Chase, Mike Williams, Mark Andrews, and Diontae Johnson. Loving this start overall. So I am going to imagine that Josh Allen is going to be selected before we select again. And listen, guys, I did talk about holding off at quarterback, but I will say, right, I was close to going Josh Allen there. There's a certain point in a draft where I'm not going to pass up Josh Allen, and we were kind of right before that line. I mean, if he's available at 56, you're not passing him up, right? But I will say with Justin Herbert, if he's still sitting there around that 56, 57 mark, I really am of the belief that Justin Herbert could finish as QB1 this season. And I really do not mind going out and selecting him around that area. Him and Josh Allen are just the two quarterbacks. Like, if they're sitting there, I'm not going to pass them up. I also really like Jalen Hurts, who's moved up a little bit in ESPN rankings, it looks like. So I'm a big fan of Hurts, but I really like Burrow late as well. And I'm kind of on that Trey Lance bandwagon right now as a late round QB selection. Okay, so a little bit of a run at tight end here in the 6th round with Kyle Pitts, Darren Waller, George Kittle gone. We've also got J.K. Dobbins off of the board. So moving into 56 and 57, going to take a look at the running back position as well. I really like the idea of adding Travis Etienne to this roster if he is available. He's the 2nd highest rated running back, so it's very likely he does get selected. If that happens, for me, I'm holding off in another entire 2 rounds to go running back, and I'm going to start looking at guys like Tony Pollard, A.J. Dillon, even James Robinson, James Cook, one of Seattle's running backs, Dameon Pierce, Tyler Algier, some of that late round value. But I do think being able to secure an ETN would really help bona fide this roster. I do like Mitchell as an RB3, not as confident in him as an RB2. Gibson, I'm kind of closer. There was a point in the offseason where I liked him as an RB3, but now I'm kind of closer to an RB4 after he had a little fumbling performance in that preseason action. Just in general, Washington's backfield has been a nightmare throughout the offseason. So nonetheless, moving forward here, we got George Kittle, Josh Jacobs, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes off the board. So a little bit of a run at the quarterback position starting. We'll see if we land Herbert here. If we don't, I'm not in panic mode whatsoever. That is the one thing, right? In an 18 format, you're just going to see so much value at quarterback in later rounds that if you don't go out and get one of those top tier guys, in my opinion, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, or Justin Herbert, just don't panic. You're going to be able to identify plenty of value in later rounds. All right, so here in the 7th, we got Breece Hall, Scary Terry, Amon-Ra St. Brown. ETN is selected at 52. You could argue we should have gone ETN over Diontae Johnson, but that's okay. Kyler Murray gone, Gibson gone, Justin Herbert is selected. We get sniped at pick 55. That's okay. So moving into pick 56 here, I mean, we could go ahead and take our quarterback in Jalen Hurts, someone who I'm a huge fan of. Looking at running back, let's go ahead and take Elijah Mitchell off of the board. And oh my gosh, he does have a week 9 bye. Okay, we really need to start paying attention to bye weeks for the rest of this draft. Looking at receiver here, we could go Metcalf. I think he'd be a fine selection, or we could go ahead and get our quarterback in Jalen Hurts. There's a chance that Hurts falls out to 72, and there's a chance he doesn't. Let's go ahead and let's secure another receiver. Let's go DK Metcalf here. Let's continue to load up at the skill position. The main reason I'm going to do that is because I really do truly believe we're going to be just fine at quarterback if we do hold off. All right, so looking at the start to this roster, right? Najee Harris, Saquon Barkley, and Elijah Mitchell at running back. We probably need to start going after some more running back help, especially because we've got all the same running backs on the same bye. So we kind of created our own issue here while drafting. But like I said, if you think a player is the best available player, go out and draft them, right? Does not necessarily matter about, don't worry about the bye weeks until the season starts, right? Jamar Chase, Mike Williams, Diontae Johnson, and Metcalf at receiver. I think we're at a really strong point at receiver. Tight end, we're looking good at Mark Andrews. All right, so just a quick mention, right? We've got this one team, the guy who selected Lamar Jackson in the 1st round, right? You could argue that this mock draft is a little bit unrealistic because of some of the moves he's making. But what I will say is in a lot of family leagues, a lot of home leagues, there tends to be that one wild card. And even in some really serious leagues, there's always one person who drafts kind of crazy. So I almost kind of like it when there's somebody in a mock draft who's just drafting completely out of line, because when somebody does that in a real draft and you're not prepared for it, it completely throws off your draft. So I don't really mind that that's happening. I just want to throw that out there. And as we start to approach the season, more inexperienced people are going to be mock drafting. So, hey, it's going to happen. All right, let's take a look back at our team and look at who's available, as we saw a big run at receiver in the 8th. Cortland Sutton, Godwin, Cooks, Hollywood Brown, and Metcalf gone. We've also got Dalton Schultz, Matt Gay, and Jalen Hurts gone into the 9th. That run at receiver continuing with Darnell Mooney and Amari Cooper off of the board. All right, so Dak Prescott selected here at 67 overall. Let's take a look at available running backs. I mean, running back is the biggest issue with this team, but I really think we can still hold off another 2 rounds and still get a lot of good value. I mean, the main player I want on this team is A.J. Dillon. I also like Chase Edmonds. Maybe one of Seattle's backs, but I'm a little bit worried about that backfield. James Robinson presents some good value. I like James Cook as a late round value. I like Damian Pierce. Love Darrell Henderson and Tyler Algier. They're basically free picks in an 18 league. So looking at ADP overall, I think we're actually in a good spot at running back. We'll let this kind of top tier, although I do like Tony Pollard. We will probably miss out on him. We'll add him to the queue, but I think we've got plenty of late round running backs to take a look at. Okay. Let's go ahead and see. I don't know. I think we might be able to hold off another round at QB. But let's just go ahead. Let's get our QB1. Let's get Joe Burrow out of here. I think he's the best available quarterback. Then we can kind of stack him with Jamar Chase, although that adds another week 10 bye week, but we'll survive. And then let's take a look at receiver. There's a couple guys that I really like here. I think we just go with the best available receiver, or the receiver that brings the most upside. So I like Renfrow in terms of a more consistent pick here in full PPR scoring formats, but I really do like Allen Robinson in terms of more upside overall. So let's go Allen Robinson, because really, when we look at these receivers, we've already drafted Jamar Chase, Mike Williams, Deontay Johnson, Metcalf, and Allen Robinson. Now, I think we're in a very good position overall at the wide receiver position, and we're going to be able to continue to identify plenty of good talent at receivers. Just such a deep position overall. All right, into the 10th round, we started things off with Allen Robinson. Juju Smith-Schuster's gone, Adam Thielen's gone, and the Bills defense is gone in round 10. So looking at this roster overall, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 spots left. So a couple ways to play out the rest of this draft. I think running back is the most important position, obviously, with our 3 starters on the same bye week. But outside of that, you could consider adding a second tight end behind Mark Andrews for that bye week or in case of injury. I don't think you necessarily need to. If you go out and you spend an early selection on Andrews and Kelsey, I would say during their bye week, just stream somebody, because you're going to be starting Kelsey and Andrews all season long. Both of them are players who stay very healthy as well. Looking at quarterback, sitting with Joe Burrow, we could also add a second quarterback to this roster, and my guy right now would be Trey Lance, just to get a high ceiling player, although of course he has a week 9 bye. I don't mind adding Trey Lance to this team whatsoever. Looking at receiver, it just gets hard for me to pass on some of these receivers at certain points, as Hunter Renfrow is taken off the board here. Devonta Smith is a player who I absolutely love targeting. I like Elijah Moore regardless of what's going to happen or not happen with Zach Wilson. Brandon Ayuk brings some nice upside, but I don't know if we need another receiver on a week 9 bye, or just any player on a week 9 bye. Russell Gage and Tyler Boyd, I think, are 2 good late round values as well, but we do already have Jamar Chase on this team, although Boyd kind of plays like a handcuff to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So nonetheless, moving up on pick 88 and 89, I think we could go ahead and just make a move for the best available running back. Looking at Trey Lance's ADP, he should last to the following round unless someone has that high conviction and decides to go ahead and take him ahead of his ADP, which don't be surprised if you do see that happen. But I would say if Tony Pollard with a week 9 bye, so we can't draft him. So I think AJ Dillon is a player we're going to go ahead and snag up. Then I don't mind James Cook here as well. I was feeling really confident in going with Rashad Penny, but I'm just worried about that backfield. I mean, we got Pete Carroll coming out and saying that Kenneth Walker, he's comfortable with him as a 3-down back. Then you've got a groin injury to Penny, and then you got DJ Dallas playing well in the preseason. So it's just, it's a backfield I'm avoiding at the moment. So before we make this selection, we do see Trey Lance off the board, which I'm not going to panic about, but he would have been a really nice addition to this team, kind of bringing a nice boomer bust ceiling to the quarterback position with having that consistency in Joe Burrow. But like I said, man, Trey Lance is a hot name in fantasy right now. Don't be surprised if you start to see him be drafted a little bit ahead of his ADP. All right, so Devonta Smith is sitting here and he's really tempting. let's go ahead and let's take A.J. Dillon here. Looking at available running backs, I do think that James Cook and Dameon Pierce will fall out, so I say we just go best available receiver. Let's go Devonta Smith. I'm happy with that selection. I think that will cap out our receiver selections for the day. Looking at our receiver room, we've got Jamar Chase, Mike Williams, Deontay Johnson, Metcalf, Allen Robinson, and Devonta Smith. So I think we're in a really good spot with 6 solid receivers. And I think the best thing for this roster, looking at the quarterback position, which for some reason Baker Mayfield just got selected. But I mean, I do like Rodgers. I do like Wilson and Stafford, even Carr and Cousins. Wilson would maybe be the only other quarterback I'd consider here, just because I do think he could bring a nice type of ceiling to this team. I do like Rodgers and Stafford in terms of consistency as well, but I just don't think behind Joe Burrow, looking at who's available, we're going to need another quarterback. We could consider another tight end. I mean, if Goddard lasts long enough, I've been a huge fan of Dallas Goedert this offseason, so he's a player I would consider, and I do like Dawson Knox as well in terms of a little bit of upside at the tight end position on our bench, you know, and especially for that bye week for Mark Andrews in week 10. Outside of that, I think running back is absolutely the most important position for us to snag a high value player at. So I'm either going to go double running back here, and Tony Pollard's still floating around, or go running back and tight end, especially with Russell Wilson off of the board. And I think regardless, this is a really good looking roster. I think Trey Lance would have been a nice addition at the end of the draft, but we'll survive without him. So I really like James Cook as a rookie running back. He's a player who I just think brings some nice upside. And I think that Dameon Pierce is a bona fide running back 1 for the Houston Texans. That might not mean a lot to you, but just remember, guys, bad football teams still hold valuable fantasy players. If a player is a starting running back or a receiver on a bad team, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are bad fantasy players. So I like Dameon Pierce and I like James Cook here. We'll either go with both of them, Dallas Goedert off the board, or we'll add Dawson Knox as well, as Dallas Goedert was just selected here in the 13th round. There goes Tony Pollard. We've also got Russell Wilson and Garrett Wilson gone this round. So just want to make sure, we want to stay away from week 9 overall. Elijah Moore selected, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, if he wasn't on week 9, I'd probably consider him. I like Chris Olave sitting here. I like Treylon Burks. You know, why not take a dart throw at either of those guys? Tyler Boyd and Russell Gage are good value. Even Sky Moore is kind of fun here as well. But overall, let's go ahead and let's add some youth at the running back position. Let's get James Cook, and then let's get my guy Dameon Pierce off of the board here. Let's just go double running back, bring some youth to this roster, and add some depth to this roster overall. And then to close things out, we're just going to select the best available defense and the best available kicker, and we'll call this thing a day. All right, so coming up on pick 120 here at the end of the 15th round. So far in the 15th round, just defenses off the board: the Packers, the Ravens, the Niners, the Bucks. In the 14th round, after my selection of Dameon Pierce, we saw Alexander Mattison, Ayuk, Olave, Robert Woods, Chase Claypool, Zach Ertz, and Ramondre Stevenson gone. Back to the 15th round, we've got Mike Gesicki thrown in there, and the Cowboys defense gone. So I really do like the Colts moving into the season, although it does look like Darius Leonard is going to miss some time, which does concern me. If we're talking streaming options, I like the Browns a lot. They've got a very good start to the season. The Bengals, Eagles, and Broncos are other teams to consider in terms of streaming to start the season. The Chargers are a fun pick, but they were really, really bad. No, the offseason additions have been great, but I just don't know really when you look at how they performed, especially in the secondary last season, if I want to take a chance. The Rams defense, on the other hand, they were a high defense selection last year and they really didn't pay off. They were like 13th overall in fantasy. So they're another team, you know, they add Bobby Wagner to that defense, but I just don't know at the end of the day how much it's really going to solidify that defense as a whole. It should help against the run game, but overall from a fantasy perspective, they did not play great. I do like the Patriots from a consistency standpoint, but really on paper right now, they look really weak overall. So let's go with the Colts. All that just to select the Colts defense, and we'll take the best available kicker. Wow, no kickers taken so far, and I accidentally selected Harrison Butker, but I meant to select Justin Tucker. Oh well, we'll end this draft with Harrison Butker over Justin Tucker. That's fine. Realistically, looking at kickers, which it won't let me look at the rest of the kickers available, but I would pick Daniel Carlson and even Matt Gay before I picked Harrison Butker and maybe even Nick Folk or Tyler Bass. But nonetheless, and Matt Gay's already gone. That's right, he got selected so much earlier. Nonetheless, Justin Tucker does not land to this team. We get Harrison Butker. That's fine. All right, so one last look at the team here, everybody. We got Jamar Chase, Najee Harris, Mark Andrews, Saquon Barkley, Mike Williams, Deontay Johnson, Elijah Mitchell, DK Metcalf, Joe Burrow, Allen Robinson, A.J. Dillon, Devonta Smith, James Cook, Dameon Pierce, the Colts defense, and Harrison Butker, who's supposed to be my guy, Justin Tucker. But nonetheless, I think this was a good draft overall. I think we did a good job of kind of pivoting throughout the mid to the later rounds of this draft and still picking up good value. I like these two rookie running backs to end this roster as well. And I think if Saquon Barkley is fully healthy, this team could be absolutely filthy. So that'll do it for the video today. If you guys did enjoy the content, be sure to hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. If you guys have any mock draft requests, please feel free to drop them down below. Be sure to join our Discord to get our mock draft invites in to draft with us on a nearly nightly basis here at the channel. Be sure to drop a comment. Let me know what you guys thought of this squad overall. And with that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch. And peace.